Happy holidays and welcome to another DFO Fantasy Show. It is Monday, December the 22nd. I'm your host, Brock Seguin, managing fantasy editor of dailyfaceoff.com. And today we've got fantasy hockey news and notes, Brock's lock of the day, and then we'll take a look at the fantasy hockey strength of schedule to identify the best streaming options for week 12 of the fantasy hockey season. I cannot believe it's already Christmas and week 12 of the fantasy hockey season, but here we go. Let's get started with the news and notes. The Edmonton Oilers did their best to address their goaltending needs by trading Stuart Skinner for Tristan Jarry, and Jarry is already injured. He's expected to miss a few weeks with a lower body injury, so they now are expected to roll with a duo of Calvin Pickard and Connor Ingram. So see how that goes. Ingram looks pretty solid in his first start yesterday, so we'll see if Pickard and Ingram can carry the load until Jarry is back. Now to New York, where JT Miller is week to week with an upper body injury that he suffered on Saturday. At this point in time, he's expected to miss a couple of weeks, but it doesn't sound like it's going to affect his potential candidacy for the U.S. Olympic team. So good news there for Team USA. Also good news for Team USA. Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets is considered day-to-day with a lower body injury. It looked absolutely awful on the weekend when he took a shot off the foot and had to crawl to the bench to get off the ice. But he's reportedly avoided any broken bones, and he's considered day-to-day, which is unbelievable news for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He is so important to what they do there, and the fact that he is only day-to-day. I would imagine he probably is out until at least after the Christmas break, but we don't know for sure. The Blue Jackets are in action on Monday, so we'll get maybe a little bit more detail on his timeline today, this afternoon at the earliest. And then to Carolina, where Seth Jarvis was moved to IR on Saturday, which means he'll miss at least 1 week, but based off the initial comments from Rod Brind'Amour, it sounds like he's going to miss much more time than that. He said basically right away that he's expecting him to be out for a while. Jackson Blake has been a favorite of mine on this show and in this season, and he was the one that replaced Jarvis on the top line. He's also on the top power play unit. So if Jackson Blake is still out there in your fantasy leagues, he is in a certain pickup right now while Jarvis is sidelined. That's going to do it for the news and notes for December the 22nd. Now let's get to Brock's lock of the day. This segment is a presentation of Betway. Join the action and download the Betway app. Create an account today and enjoy our sign-up bonus, 18 plus, and please play responsibly. So, Rasmus Andersson, we took him twice last week. He hit the over 2.5 shots on goal on Thursday, meaning we went 3-0 last week, up 3.2 units last week alone. That puts us at 20 and 13 on the season. We're up 5 units on the season, plus 12.3% ROI. I mean, if you're betting $100 units on Brock's Lock of the Day this year, most of your Christmas would already be paid for. We're up $504 on the season at $100 units. Hopefully we can stay hot this week. And let's head over to the 5v5 player prop model. Got all the props that you could ever dream of. We're sticking with shots tonight, but if you want to get a free trial, 1 week free trial, 5v5 Hockey's betting model, you can do so by signing up today. We're going right here with Kevin Fiala. Fiala over 2.5 shots on goal at minus 140 at Betway. Fiala failed to hit this mark in his last game, but prior to that, he had hit it in 4 consecutive games. In December, he has hit it in 7 of 9 games. That is a 77.8% hit rate, while averaging 2.9 shots on goal and 6.3 shot attempts. So hasn't really hit the net a ton, but he's shooting the puck like crazy. 6.3 shot attempts is exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for an over 2.5 shots on goal. And tonight he'll face a Blue Jackets team that, again, could potentially be without Zach Werenski, which is really probably going to limit the amount of time they have the puck this evening, really going to help the Kings out. And they are giving up the 6th most shots on goal and the 7th most shot attempts per game in their last 10 games. So really nice matchup here. And as I mentioned, at Betway, Kevin Fiala over 2.5 shots on goal at minus 140. That is tonight's Brock's Lock of the Day. Hopefully we can stay red hot, make it 4 in a row. Now let's bring up the strength of schedule for Week 12 of the fantasy hockey season. So, obviously, with the Christmas break cutting the schedule down, we're looking at just 4 games or 4 days in total that even have games, just 35 games in total this week. So this, might seem like a week where it's streaming is kind of irrelevant, but it actually might be more important than ever because you have so few games that any additional games you can add to your lineup increases your chances of picking up points more than normal, right? Like these extra couple of games mean more this week than in any other week basically this season. It's super, super valuable to try to get those extra couple games with how few games there are this season. So with just 4 game days, we have just 2 days that have light nights, which is Monday, there's 4 games, and Sunday, which there are 5 games, and there are only 4 teams, the Flyers, the Kraken, the Lightning, and the Blue Jackets, that play on both of those nights. So those are the teams that we are going to focus on today. We are going to start with the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have a ton of streaming options. We're going to start with Adam Fantilli. Now, chances are in most competitive formats, Adam Fantilli is not available to you. He is up to 44% rostered, but I'm including him because he's under 50%. And honestly, I'm just shocked that Fantilli is just 44% rostered right now because he's played very well as of late. You might recall if you listened to the show in the preseason, he was an absolute must draft for me. I expected big things from him this season, and I was a little worried based off the start of the season that he got off to, but he's been red hot as of late. 10 goals, 7 assists, 17 points in his last 24 games. That is a 35-goal pace for him. He's just playing absolutely monster minutes, averaging over 20-46 time on ice during that stretch, playing on the top line. He's also on the top power play unit. And the one thing that I really liked about Fantilli coming into the season was that his 5v5 numbers are unbelievable. Just no production throughout his career on the power play. Even though he's been on the top power play unit a lot this year, that's still kind of continuing. So hopefully he can get hot. But I think if Werenski gets ruled out today, you basically have to downgrade all of the Blue Jackets a little bit because, like I said, they're going to struggle a little bit more with Werenski out of the lineup. But there's not a ton of great streaming options this week, so the Blue Jackets make a lot of sense. So if Fantilli, obviously not available in a lot of leagues. Next are a couple names that I would probably avoid if you can avoid it. Dmitry Voronkov, 30% rostered. Again, I'd probably look for some other Blue Jackets, and we'll get to those names in a second, but I'm going in order of roster percentage right now. He's picked up just 5 points, 4 goals, 1 assist in his last 14 games. And as you see on screen right now, he was demoted to the third line last game. So they recently acquired Mason Marchment from the Seattle Kraken. That shuffled things around, and that moved Voronkov down to the third line. And his ice time has dropped just 15-25 2 games ago, and then just 14-38 in their last game. So I think there are better Blue Jackets available. We'll get to them in a second. But then again, going in order of roster percentage, Sean Monahan's next at 27% rostered. Also a very questionable pickup right now. He's on an 8-game goalless drought, has just 1 assist and 9 shots on goal, so barely averaging a shot per game during that time. Again, low priority pickup because he was also shuffled to the third line last game. So those two, while they're on the third line, unless anything changes Monday, probably low priority pickups for me right now. If all of a sudden it changes and Voronkov, Marchenko, and Fantilli are back together on the top line, then Voronkov becomes a little bit more important to me. So keep an eye on their line combinations later today. Maybe just wait it out and try to pick them up later. Boone Jenner's been great. He's at 23% rostered. He returned from injury on December 11th and has 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in 5 games. But what's so impressive is he's averaging 2.8 shots on goal and 2.8 hits per game. So he is a solid stream in standard formats because of the offensive production is pretty solid, but he's an absolute stud in banger leagues. I'm assuming that the majority of his roster percentage is in those banger formats, but if he's available in any banger formats, he's an absolute must pick up, probably a long-term hold as well. In his last 10 games, he has 8 points, 3 goals, 5 assists, but he's averaging 2.4 shots on goal, 4.4 shot attempts, 2.2 hits, and 1.2 blocks per game. He's just an absolute category stuffer, playing very well right now. Then we've got Mason Marchment, who, as I mentioned, was recently acquired from the Kraken over the weekend, and in his Blue Jackets debut, he had a goal. He had 3 shots on goal and played 19 minutes and 41 seconds time on ice on Saturday. So really nice debut. And what's very nice is that he debuted on that top line with Adam Fantilli. He was also on the second power play unit. So obviously we'd like him on the top power play unit. I don't think that's going to happen really anytime soon, but it positions him on that top line with Fantilli very nicely to be a nice streamer this week. Again, throughout his career, he's always been a solid offensive contributor, not somebody that's going to, all of a sudden just produce elite offensive numbers, but he can definitely chip in this week. He also averages over 1 hit per game over the last 3 years, so he's got some value in those extended formats as well if a guy like Boone Jenner is unavailable. And then lastly, another low priority pickup for me here is Kent Johnson. He was moved up to the top line. He had been on the fourth line a lot, bottom six for sure, over the last few weeks, was playing like under 10 minutes a game. If the lines change at all, don't even consider Kent Johnson. And quite honestly, he's a deep league pickup only if all these other guys are gone. He just does not shoot the puck. If like for some reason you only need assists this week, which I can't imagine would be the case, he's a good pickup for assists if he's in this on this top line, if he's in this top six, but just doesn't shoot enough. No goal scoring upside at all. I would look elsewhere for sure. Now let's get to the Philadelphia Flyers. And some of this is going to be contingent on whether or not Christian Dvorak plays. Their lines are going to shuffle a little bit. So we'll start with Dvorak, who's 5% rostered. He's missed their last game, but if he's back in the lineup Monday, he's a pretty solid pickup the way things are going right now. He's been skating in this Grabankin spot with Zegras and Konechny, which is obviously as good of a spot as you could hope for in this Flyers lineup. And he's been great as of late. 1 goal and 6 assists, 7 points in his last 7 games, while offering solid shot volume, 2.4 shots a goal per game. So certainly could chip in a goal, and the assist production has been solid as well. So Dvorak, if he's in the lineup on Monday, makes a lot of sense on that top line. Now let's go in terms of own percentage. Owen Tippett, 31% rostered here on the second line. He continues to produce offense at a decent pace. He's contributing in a variety of categories, which has always been his calling card. In his last 11 games, he has 7 points, 4 goals, 3 assists. So again, decent offensive production. Just 1.6 shots on goal per game, but is averaging 4.5 shot attempts. So he should end up getting more shots on net. And the 4.5 shot attempts per game will always kind of give him some goal scoring upside, excuse me. And then obviously the bagger hit value with the hits, 2.1 hits per game. He's always been good at doing that. So does have a nice floor in terms of the shot volume and the hit volume, and then obviously has decent offensive upside. Been relatively inconsistent, right? Has some kind of big weeks, goes on some hot streaks, and then cools down a little bit. So he probably won't be available in most competitive leagues, but if there are any banger leagues out there, him and like Boone Jenner are those two just absolute must banger pickups this week. But again, chances of them being available in those formats are a little bit slimmer. Next is Noah Cates, 6% rostered, plays strict center for on Yahoo. Certainly not a household name, but he plays absolutely huge minutes for the Flyers, up over 17 minutes per game. For the Flyers, it can definitely chip in across the board. He has 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists, while averaging 2 shots on goal and 2.8 shot attempts, but then also 1 block and 1 hit per game. So a category stuffer on the cheaper variety here in the last 9 games. Should definitely be in consideration in those extended formats. And the Flyers, like, it doesn't really matter because they use these 2 power play units basically evenly. They don't really have like one unit that goes out there for 70%. It's basically like a 50-50 split. But this top line is certainly the more potent of the 2 units. So you got to mention it at least a little bit. And they do ride the hot hand a little bit. If one unit is contributing, they'll leave one out there a little bit longer. So this Cates, Zegras, Drysdale, Konechny, and Brink power play unit is probably the most likely one to produce offense, especially the way that Zegras has been going as of late. Obviously, Konechny, one of the better offensive players on this roster. So I like Cates in this spot. And then, you got to mention Bobby Brink as well. He's 2% rostered, so more of a deep league pickup here. But he comes into week 12 with 7 points in his last 9 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, has a little bit of offensive punch, plays a lot of minutes with that Cates line, so sees decent ice time, over 50 minutes per game. He's on this top unit, so to speak. I think that he could be a bit of a factor here in deeper formats as well. He's got some offensive jam to his game, and is going to continue to play big minutes so long as he's skating with Noah Cates, which is they've basically been locked at the hip for like the last 2 seasons. Let's get to Seattle. Eeli Tolvanen is a name we always talk about on the streaming show when Seattle has the schedule because he's a strong bagger league stream. But the offense has really taken off in December. Tolvanen has 2 goals and 6 assists, 8 points in his last 9 games, while averaging 4.2 shot attempts. So the shot, again, similar to like Tippett, not hitting the net with as much regularity as we'd like to see, but the 4.2 shot attempts is a good indicator that he's going to continue to get pucks on net, and 2.8 hits per game. So he's skating right now on the top line and the top power play unit, which is obviously, you can't ask for a better spot. And yeah, with the shot volume, being as good as it is, Tolvanen is as likely as anyone on the Seattle Kraken to lead them in basically every category this week, given his hit production as well. He's just 18% rostered. Speaking of 18% rostered, we've got Chandler Stevenson, who is suddenly red hot. He comes into week 12 on an 8-game point streak. Don't know if I was expecting that. Scoring 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points in those 8 games. He's shooting 21.7% during that stretch, so obviously this isn't sustainable. But his shot volume's actually increased as of late, which is encouraging that he's going to, maybe have a little bit more goal scoring upside. And he's already a guy that plays just an egregious amount of minutes, over 20 minutes per night. So he's got plenty of opportunity to get on the score sheet. That's the good news. The bad news is he's averaging just 1.89 on ice expected goals for per 60, which is atrocious. So he basically has to be super hyper efficient to produce the way he has produced, and he's done so thus far. So on a per 60 level, he doesn't produce a lot, but when you're playing 20 minutes a night, you're going to get opportunities with regularity. So I don't think he's the most confident stream, but just kind of given the usage, he has an opportunity. The guy I like the most, and it's always the case here with the Seattle Kraken, is Jordan Eberle. You've heard me talk about him. I've probably talked about him 10 times this season on this show at 15% rostered, because he is the one that creates the most offense, whether it is the offensive generating plays according to Sports Logic, which is just getting the pucks to the dirty areas and trying to set up his teammates for scoring chances, or carrying the puck to the slot to generate scoring chances for himself in terms of individual XG. He's the best offensive weapon that this forward group has. So he is always the one that I'm going to target the most, because the likelihood of him getting on the score sheet is greater than basically anybody on this Kraken roster. As of late, he's been okay. 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in his last 9 games. So he does the best job of generating offense, but it hasn't always led to great numbers. He plays big minutes with strong volume, 2.2 shots on goal, 4.8 shot attempts. I really like Eberle. Continues to skate with Matty Beniers. He's also on the top power play unit, obviously. And then let's talk about Beniers, 14% rostered. He's improved his shot volume this year as well, but he has just 2 goals in his last 21 games. So it doesn't really matter how much you shoot when you're, he's averaging 4.1 shot attempts per game, which is great, but he's shooting just 5.3%. So you can shoot as much as you want. If you're converting at 5%, it doesn't really matter. So he can definitely chip in. He can certainly score because he's got decent shot volume. He can obviously chip and assist. He's good at that. But I think the goal scoring upside is certainly a lot more reliable with a guy like Jordan Eberle or Eeli Tolvanen. And so those two would be my focus ahead of Beniers this week, potentially even Chandler Stevenson. And then the last team we're going to talk about is the Tampa Bay Lightning. They don't really have much. Sure, Yanni Gourde, if he stays in that top line, you could consider him for the couple games they've got this week. But the problem with that is Brandon Hagel might not play Monday, and Yanni Gourde might skate there today. But by the time Christmas is over and the Lightning come back on Sunday, Brandon Hagel could be back. Gourde was then essentially a 1-game stream for you. So that being said, Anthony Cirelli should be in consideration, but he's just done absolutely nothing offensively for a month. And he was bumped to the third line the other game. So if that remains the case, I can't confidently recommend Cirelli. So the only name worth targeting is Oliver Bjorkstrand. And the thing with Bjorkstrand is that almost all of his value is tied to being on that top power play unit. He's been there most of the season. He's been bumped from this unit a couple times, but more often than not, he makes his way back up there. And he is that is the focal point of what Bjorkstrand does, is on the power play. So he has 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists in his last 6 games. But again, his usage, his shot volume, all that kind of remains modest. Doesn't do a ton at 5v5. It's all about the power play. 4 of his 5 goals this season have come on the man advantage. 7 of his 15 points, so nearly half of his points this year have come on the power play. So basically picking this guy up for hopefully some power play production in those 2 games. It's basically all he's going to offer you at this point. So yeah, that's going to do it. Those are your streaming options this week. That's the 4 teams. I really, if you take a look, let's go back to the strength of schedule here. In terms of the opponent rating for these guys, the Flyers have the easiest schedule. Vancouver and Seattle are probably the 2 best matchups. The Blue Jackets got the Kings and the Islanders. Not great. Not terrible. The Kraken have Anaheim and Philly obviously the Anaheim matchup is probably the best matchup overall. So I really like Seattle on Monday. The Flyers on Sunday is less ideal, but I really like Eberle, Stevenson, Beniers, Tolvanen on Monday. They're in a good spot against the Ducks offense or Ducks defense that's just putrid. And then the Lightning, they've got the Blues and the Canadiens, two pretty solid defensive teams. Like if Joel Hofer gets to start for the Blues, obviously downgrade the Lightning a little bit, but if it's Binnington, he's just not been playing that well. You get a little bit more interest in Bjorkstrand, but yeah, I think the Blue Jackets, I like their players the best, but their schedule is kind of the worst. So yeah, I think the focus for me, a lot of these guys, I really like Eberle and the Seattle players, especially on Monday. So yeah, they all kind of have meh schedules, but and there's nobody that's like a surefire amazing pickup, but there's a couple decent options there for you. And again, with as few games as there are this week, just getting those additional games into your lineup is going to be the key this week. So the Seattle players in Anaheim on Monday, like they could win you a week just the first day of the week. It is possible. So thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the DFO Fantasy Show. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We'll be back with Waiver Wire Wednesday on a Tuesday tomorrow. That'll be our final show before the Christmas break. And then we will be back again on Friday to give you the weekend streaming options. Although that is not cemented in because there's really not a whole lot to talk about. There's no games on Friday. Basically only going to talk about these same teams, maybe a little bit, a couple more teams that play on Sunday, but not a whole lot to go over. So maybe just 2 shows this week. Still got to figure it out for sure, but definitely be back tomorrow with Beebs Bondy for Waiver Wire Wednesday on a Tuesday. Happy holidays. Stay safe out there. See you back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.